The photo album was filled with hundreds of smiling children. 20 years of birthday parties, first days of school, graduation ceremonies. But when Ellen asked Linda Chen which child was her favorite, her answer silenced the studio. The ones I couldn't save. Linda Chen, 45, sat in the interview chair, surrounded by an invisible weight that seemed to press down on her shoulders. For 2 decades, she had opened her home to 47 different foster children, providing temporary sanctuary for society's most vulnerable. Today, she was here to discuss the foster care system's successes. But the conversation was about to take a devastating turn. The Ellen DeGeneres Show had invited Linda during their Heroes Among Us week to celebrate people who dedicate their lives to helping others. Her story was meant to inspire viewers about the positive impact of foster care, showing how one person's commitment could change dozens of lives. What Ellen's producers didn't know was that behind Linda's 20 years of devotion lay 3 failures that haunted her every day. 3 children she'd loved as her own, who'd been taken from her care and placed in homes where they'd suffered unimaginable fates. Linda had become a foster mother at 25, after losing her own baby to stillbirth. Unable to have biological children, she'd channeled her maternal instincts into caring for children who desperately needed love, stability, and hope. Linda, Ellen began warmly, tell us about your journey as a foster mother. It started as healing, Linda said carefully. I needed to nurture someone, and there were so many children who needed nurturing. Ellen smiled encouragingly. How many children have you fostered over the years? 47, Linda replied. Ages ranging from newborn to 17. That's incredible. What's been the most rewarding part? Linda considered the question, her expression growing complex. Watching them learn to trust again, seeing them believe they deserve love. Ellen felt something shift in Linda's tone. You sound like there's been challenges too. The system isn't perfect, Linda said diplomatically. Sometimes decisions are made that don't serve the children's best interests. Ellen realized there was a deeper story here. Can you tell us about a time when the system failed? Linda's composure began to crack. There have been 3 children I couldn't protect from the system itself. The studio fell quiet. Ellen leaned forward, sensing they were entering sensitive territory. What happened to these 3 children? Tommy, age 6, Maria, age 8, and David, age 4, Linda said, each name carrying visible pain. They were taken from my care and placed in homes that... Her voice broke. They didn't survive those placements. Ellen felt her chest tighten. Linda, are you saying these children died after being removed from your care? Yes, Linda whispered. All 3 died within 6 months of leaving my home. The audience gasped, audibly. Ellen realized she was dealing with a tragedy of unimaginable proportions. How did this happen? Tommy was returned to his biological father, who had a history of violence. Linda explained. The father killed him during a drunken rage. Maria was placed with relatives who neglected her medical needs. She died from an untreated infection. David was adopted by a family that seemed perfect on paper, but turned out to be severely abusive. Ellen was speechless. Linda, I can't imagine how you've carried this burden. Every day I wonder if I fought hard enough, Linda said. If I could have done something different to keep them safe. Ellen felt the weight of Linda's guilt. Were you able to advocate for these children to stay with you? I tried, Linda said. But foster parents have limited rights. The system prioritizes reunification with biological families or permanent adoption, even when those situations are dangerous. How did you find the strength to continue fostering after losing these 3 children? Linda looked directly into the camera. Because the other 44 are alive. Because for every child I couldn't save, there are dozens I could. Ellen realized she was witnessing extraordinary resilience. Tell me about some of the success stories. Marcus is now a doctor, Linda said, her voice strengthening. Jessica just graduated law school. Anthony runs a nonprofit for homeless youth. They're alive, successful, contributing to society because someone gave them a chance. Ellen felt moved by Linda's determination to focus on the positive. Do you stay in touch with the children you fostered? 23 of them still call me Mom, Linda replied. They come for holidays, bring their own children to visit. They've created their own definition of family. Ellen made a decision to dig deeper. Linda, you mentioned fighting for Tommy, Maria, and David. Can you tell us more about what happened? Linda took a deep breath. Tommy had been with me for 2 years. He was thriving. His behavioral issues were resolving. He was doing well in school. Then his father completed a court-ordered anger management program and petitioned for custody. What did you tell the court? I testified that Tommy was terrified of going back, Linda said. He'd wet the bed for weeks leading up to the hearing. He begged me not to let them take him, but parental rights almost always trump foster care, even when the parent has a history of violence. Ellen felt sick, and the court returned him anyway? The father had completed his program, had a job, claimed he'd changed, Linda said. 3 months later, Tommy was dead. Ellen couldn't hide her emotion. How do you process something like that? You don't, Linda said simply. You carry it. You use it to fight harder for the next child. Ellen realized Linda's strength came from transforming grief into action. What about Maria? Maria had type 1 diabetes, Linda explained. She required careful monitoring, regular insulin, specific dietary needs. Her aunt wanted custody, claimed she could provide better cultural connection than I could. Did you express concerns about the medical care? I provided detailed instructions, offered to help with the transition, even volunteered to continue managing her medical care, Linda said. The aunt assured everyone she understood the responsibilities. Ellen felt dread building. But she didn't. Maria died from diabetic ketoacidosis 6 weeks after placement, Linda said. Her aunt had been skipping insulin doses because she thought they were too expensive, and she didn't recognize the warning signs of the crisis. Ellen was struggling to process the preventable tragedy. This child died from medical neglect? Yes. Maria knew how to manage her diabetes herself, but as an 8-year-old, she couldn't advocate against adults who were making deadly decisions. Ellen felt anger rising. And David? David was the hardest, Linda said, tears forming. He was with me from birth. His mother died in childbirth, no known father. He was legally free for adoption, and a wealthy couple from another state wanted him. That sounds positive. On paper, yes, Linda said. Professional couple, beautiful home, extensive background checks. But something felt wrong during their visits. David would become withdrawn, clingy. He'd revert to behaviors he'd outgrown. Ellen sensed where this was heading. You tried to stop the adoption. I requested more supervised visits, suggested family counseling. Even offered to adopt him myself, Linda said. But the state prioritizes permanent placement over foster care. And this couple looked perfect to caseworkers. What happened to David? He died from injuries consistent with shaken baby syndrome, Linda said. At 4 years old, the adoptive father claimed he fell downstairs, but the medical evidence showed repeated abuse over several months. Ellen felt overwhelmed by the systemic failures Linda was describing. How many other foster parents face these kinds of losses? More than you'd think, Linda replied. But most don't talk about it. The guilt, the shame, the helplessness. It destroys some people's ability to continue. Ellen realized Linda's public appearance was incredibly brave. Why are you speaking about this now? Because silence protects the system, not the children, Linda said. If Tommy, Maria, and David's deaths can prevent other children from suffering the same fate, then their lives meant something. Ellen felt the power of Linda's mission. What changes need to happen? Foster parents need more rights in custody decisions, Linda said. Courts need to prioritize child safety over parental rights. And caseworkers need smaller caseloads so they can actually investigate placements thoroughly. Ellen made a decision that felt both necessary and healing. Linda, I want you to know that some of the children you helped raise are here today. Linda's eyes widened. What? Marcus, Jessica, and Anthony, the ones you mentioned, they're backstage. They wanted to surprise you. They're here? Linda's voice cracked. They flew in from across the country because they needed to tell you something. Ellen gestured toward the wings. 3 adults emerged, all in their 20s and 30s, all carrying flowers and looking emotional. Linda stood up, her hands covering her mouth. My baby, Marcus, now 28, and wearing scrubs, approached first. Mom, we heard what you were saying about the ones you couldn't save. We needed you to know, Jessica added, that you saved us completely. Anthony, the youngest at 24, was crying. You didn't fail those 3 children. The system failed them. You gave them love, safety, and hope for the time they had. Linda embraced all 3, and for the first time since the interview began, she sobbed freely. I've missed you all so much. We know about Tommy, Maria, and David, Marcus said. We've always known, and we need you to understand that their deaths weren't your fault. Jessica spoke directly to the camera. Linda Chen saved my life. When I came to her at 14, I'd been in 8 different placements. I was angry, destructive, convinced I was worthless. She never gave up on me, Anthony added. Even when I ran away, got arrested, failed in school, she kept believing I could be better. Marcus turned to Ellen. This woman taught us what unconditional love looks like. She showed us that family isn't about blood, it's about choice, commitment, and showing up every day. Ellen felt overwhelmed by the love in the room. Linda, how does it feel to see your children again? Like my heart is full and broken at the same time, Linda said. Full, because look what they've become. Broken because Tommy, Maria, and David should be here too. Jessica took Linda's hands. Mom, we have something to tell you. What? We've started a foundation, Anthony said. The Tommy, Maria, and David Foundation. It provides legal advocacy for foster parents who are fighting to keep children in safe placements. Linda stared at them in disbelief. You did what? We've raised enough money to hire 3 full-time attorneys, Marcus explained. They work exclusively with foster parents who need legal help protecting children from dangerous reunifications or placements. Ellen felt chills. You turned your foster mother's greatest tragedy into a tool for preventing future tragedies? She taught us that love means action, Jessica said. We couldn't bring back the children she lost, but we could honor their memory by protecting other children. Linda was sobbing now. You didn't have to do this. Yes, we did, Anthony said firmly. Because you taught us that when the system fails children, good people have to step up and fix it. Ellen addressed the audience. What we're witnessing is the generational impact of one woman's love. She raised these 3 successful adults who are now using their success to protect vulnerable children. The audience erupted in applause, but Linda was focused entirely on her children. How many children have you helped so far? Ellen asked. 12, Marcus replied. 12 children who were about to be placed in dangerous situations. Our attorneys were able to prevent those placements and find safer alternatives. Ellen felt the beautiful symmetry. So Linda's loss of 3 children led to the protection of 12 others? With more to come, Jessica said. We're expanding the program nationally. Ellen realized this was bigger than one woman's story. Linda, what do you want people to understand about foster care? That it's not about being a hero, Linda said. It's about showing up for children who need someone to believe in them. And when the system fails, you don't give up. You find ways to make it better. Ellen looked at Marcus, Jessica, and Anthony. What do you want people to know about your foster mother? That she's the reason we believe in the power of family, Marcus said. That she showed us love isn't limited by biology, Jessica added. That she turned her greatest pain into her greatest purpose, Anthony concluded. Ellen felt moved to make an announcement. The Ellen Show wants to contribute to the Tommy, Maria, and David Foundation. We're donating $100,000 to expand your legal advocacy program. Linda and her children were speechless, and Ellen continued. We're partnering with you to create awareness about foster care reform. Your foundation will be featured in a documentary we're producing about children in the system. Linda looked at Ellen with gratitude. Thank you for giving me a platform to honor their memory. "Thank you for showing us what love in action looks like," Ellen replied. The episode continued for another hour as Linda and her children shared stories, addressed questions from the audience, and discussed the practical ways people could support foster children and reform. The show aired 3 months later and generated the largest response in Ellen's history. Donations to the Tommy, Maria, and David Foundation exceeded $2 million within a week. More importantly, Linda's story inspired legislative action. Several states introduced bills strengthening foster parents' rights in custody proceedings and requiring more thorough investigation of placement options. Linda continued fostering children, but now with the support of the Foundation's legal team. She never faced another situation where children were removed from her care against safety concerns. Marcus, Jessica, and Anthony remained actively involved in the Foundation and in Linda's life. They brought their own children to visit Grandma Linda, creating the multi-generational family that biology had denied but love had created. Ellen kept a photo from that day in her office, Linda surrounded by her 3 successful children, all of them holding flowers meant to honor the 3 who didn't survive. Because sometimes the most powerful testimony to love isn't what we preserve, but what we do with what we lose. Sometimes the greatest success stories emerge from the ashes of the greatest failures. Linda Chen couldn't save Tommy, Maria, and David, but she raised Marcus, Jessica, and Anthony, who used their survival to protect other children from similar fates. In the end, love multiplied, pain transformed into purpose, and 3 children, who died too young, became the inspiration for a movement that would save dozens of others. Because that's what real love does. It refuses to let tragedy be the end of the story. It finds ways to turn endings into beginnings, loss into legacy, and heartbreak into hope.